Jeez. There we go. Hello. You can't hear me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. You're muted, Opus. Snap.
Ah!
I don't know, but it's delicious.
I know, payback, I get it.
I'm always forgetting to unmute. Today I am victorious.
I am usually amazing at it. That's the only thing I can cover. Apparently not. Okay, we still have a few coming in. Hello, Michael. How are you? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay, how are you?
Good, how are you? Thank you for the invitation.
Oh, you're very welcome. Oh, and we have another Michael. Can't hear you.
Hello there. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Very
How
good.
are you?
Good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Very well. So the way it's run, just to let you gentlemen know, which Ron already knows, Mr. Law.
Lar. So close.
I'm horrible with names, just so you gentlemen know. Ron is acquainted with me, so he knows. If I mix up on your name in any way, shape, or form, please do not take offense. Just either correct me or correct it at the end. But just to let you know, we run it like a round table and all involved. Okay? So if I ask a question and someone's answering and you want to, interject, by all means. We want to keep the banter going, okay? So
Okay.
All right, I'm warning you now. Don't take anything personally.
never on this show, please, never, ever.
I was just ordering a glass of wine. So
Order me one too.
I'll ask my wife if she will take it.
All right, gentlemen, are we ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Yes.
Hello, everyone. I am Opus Night, and you have entered Night Vision. And tonight we have 3 authors with us. We have 2 Michaels and Ron Lar.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Yay! Yay!
I should sign off now. It can't get any better than that.
Delicious. I got it right.
Nailed it.
And he took how many shows? 5 with you and I to interacting to
I think
know
so.
how to pronounce it. I'll never do it again. I promise you. Promise you. So, gentlemen, did we bring our books?
I
I
brought one.
brought mine.
All right.
I'm going to go grab it, actually. It's over in the other room. Let me
Go right
get it.
ahead. Michael Scott, we're going to get started with you. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Very well. And do you have that beautiful book to show us?
I do. Here it is.
Very
I'm
nice.
sure if you can see it. Yeah, there it is.
And do you want to read the back of the blurb and then tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. All right. In a refugee shantytown on the outskirts of a vast and opulent imperial capital city, an insidious sect of demon worshippers, the cult of Eben, began to prey upon the gathered, a diaspora of peoples displaced from their nations in the aftermath of a mad tyrant's ceaseless wars of conquest long ago. Unwilling to overlook these heinous crimes against a vulnerable, underserved populace, Constable Lucard Alphonse began an investigation that brought him far too close to the truth, leading him to become the cult's next target. In order to derail his investigation, the enigmatic leader of the cult framed Lucard for the grisly murder of a woman whose psychic gifts had been invaluable in investigations. The disgraced former constable, haunted by the lingering trauma of all that he had seen and endured during his investigations, was chased into exile with his life in utter ruins. He must travel far to the southern reaches, to the free wilds, in search of a new start and perhaps a chance to unravel the mysteries surrounding the cult of Eben, bringing them to justice, clearing his good name, and silencing the horrors that plague his mind whenever he closes his eyes.
Very nice.
Yeah, the blur's a bit of a
Damn.
mouthful.
Yeah. Now, how long did it take you to write it?
Well, in truth, it is a labor that has taken me over a decade, but it is the actual effort to sit down and compile everything into a novel just over a year.
Very nice. And how long have you been writing?
Since probably since I was about 12. Short form fiction, a little bit of nonfiction, some poetry since I was about 12.
Beautiful. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Michael Scott. I had to publish under Michael Paul Scott because there's apparently a very famous Irish writer by the name of Michael Scott. So just to differentiate myself, I had to go with my middle name, even though it's kind of, you know, 3 first names. So it's got that serial killer vibe going on, Michael Paul Scott. But I'm 45 years old. I live in upstate New York, about 90 miles north of the city, in the midst of apple orchards and famous vineyards and wineries. I'm married to a beautiful woman, Christine. We live simple, quiet lives. And my day job, I work for the local utility company as a dispatcher, power and electric company.
All right. I love it. Ron, my dear.
Where in upstate New York are you from? I grew up in upstate New York.
I live in a small town called Gardiner in Ulster County, which is right on the
Thanks.
Hudson River.
Right, nice. I lived up further upstate in a little tiny town it's called Corinth, New York. It's like near Saratoga Springs.
Saratoga, yeah, that's further up.
Yes.
The funny thing is that New York State is such a giant, vast state. It could literally take you 10 hours to go from one side of the state to the other. But New York City is considered half of it.
Yeah.
So as soon as you say upstate, it's a whole country essentially.
Right. I'm sorry to interrupt. I couldn't help myself.
No, not at all. So we have 2 beautiful New Yorkers with us. Wonderful. Ron, whereabouts are you, dear?
I'm in a little north of Spokane, Washington, which is about a 2-hour drive south of Canada. Longer if you walk, of course.
Oh.
And then about a half an hour from the Idaho border. So the opposite side of the state from Seattle, which people think is all of Washington. But so we don't have the same kind of climate or anything as Seattle. But here it's just started freezing. Ooh, what the hell happened there? Just started freezing, and I'm still harvesting potatoes and carrots from my garden. I have an extensive garden. I love eating. I do it every day. And I love cooking and baking from scratch. So we grow a lot. I mean, we have a few acres here. We grow many, many fruits, vegetables, and herbs. And then I have 3 freezers full of food in the basement from stuff we've processed and grown this year. So, but my name is Ron Lahr, and I write fantasy, science fiction, and humor. This is the first book of my fantasy trilogy, the Cathaldi Chronicles. I just put the 3rd one out. I released it last week or Sunday of this week. Monday.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And then last week I released a parody self-help book called You're as Stupid as You Are Fat, How to Talk to Women. And then either next month or December, I'm going to put out my humorous science fiction book, You Get What You Steal. So this has been a crazy season for me. And I'll read the very short blurb on the back of the first book of the Cathaldi Chronicles, Children of Cathaldi. A thief with dreams of adventure, an eternal battle against the gods, free drinks and grateful women. Dirk's a scoundrel. Some would say a jerk. He'll admit it. But his ambition only goes as far as his next heist. It's not that he's against noble causes or grand adventures. To hear him tell it, he's had a few, as long as there's something in it for him. But when a childhood friend shows up with an unbelievable tale, Dirk must decide if he really is up for adventure worthy of the songs of bards. The last time the Cathaldi battled the gods, they nearly destroyed the world. Can Dirk and his companions prevent the world from sliding into chaos once more? If women and treasure await, he's going to give it his best shot.
Love it.
There you go.
Okay.
So there's, and
I
it's
love
thank you. It's first person. Dirk tells the story. It's kind of like you're sitting at a bar with him and he's just telling you the story. And one reviewer called him an unreliable narrator, which is very true because he's he builds up his own contributions and minimizes the impact of his friends. And yeah, it's a lot of fun, I think. I mean, I like it. So cheers.
I'm still waiting for mine. Waiting for the bartender.
Yeah,
Where's
I would give my house a shitty Yelp review for service. Although I will give it a great one because she had to open a bottle of wine and bring me some.
Very nice. Now, I am going to attempt to pronounce this name.
All right, let's see. I got money on whether or not you're going to get it right.
Okay. Michael K. Falciani?
I mean, that's pretty good, actually. It's Michael K. Falciani. It was my
Falciani.
name,
Okay.
actually, since it's my pen name. But that was good. That was a good effort.
It's the Italian in me trying.
I love it. I mean, I'm right there with you.
So tell
So
me
you guys know, my mom wanted to name me Michael, and my father won the fight, and so I was named Ron. So it was almost 3 Michaels today.
That would have been like the trifecta of Michaelhood right there.
Really, because
Yeah.
it's such an odd name. You don't hear it very often, Michael.
So Michael, tell us about yourself here.
So I'm actually a teacher. I live in Carson City, Nevada at this time. I've been teaching for the last 23 years. Recently I became a PE teacher, which is like the greatest job on the planet. I was playing soccer the other day and I got paid. It was, I feel like I was a major league soccer player. It was amazing. Next week, I think I'm going to do football. You know, I'll see how the NFL treats me. No, it was great. I love the job. I love the students. I, of course, taught in the classroom for 20 years before that, or 21 years before that. I taught 5th grade for the most part. And like the other Michael, I grew up in upstate New York, but I now live near the West Coast. I absolutely love my place, and I'm enjoying my time as a writer, which is, I'm very new. I still have the new shine on me, I think, because I only have first book out, although my second story is coming out on Halloween, so I'm excited for that as well.
Cheers. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Would you like
And
me
yes,
to read?
it is Halloween coming. Not that I'm going to mention. We are waiting patiently.
Right.
So you want to show us that beautiful book?
So yeah, so this is called The Raven and the Crow, Dark Storm Rising. It was written, it took me 25 years to complete. Of course, I didn't spend all that time writing it, but I spent a lot of time on it. So when Michael said 10, I was like, oh man, I got you beat, buddy. So I think he's flying right along. Now I did the second book in about 6 months, so I feel like my pace is increasing. If you take a look at the cover, the students at our local high school actually designed the cover for the book.
Wow.
Very nice.
I thought they did
That
a
is
great job.
beautiful.
My publisher was thrilled with it. And the second book will be out in January. And they are also, in fact, we just decided today on the top 2 finalists. So I can't wait to tell the kids about that. We're going to do a little a Zoom meeting. We're going to record ourselves talking about several of the entrants, and we're going to talk about what we liked and what we didn't. It really, it's a great opportunity for the students to have their work put out into the world. They give us great covers, and I think it's just a win-win for everybody. That's what I really liked the most about it.
Well, do you want to give them, you're more than welcome to give them a shout out and tell us what school it is.
Well, it's at Carson High School. It's the teacher is Mrs. Apabio. This is a graphic arts class, and I literally got off the phone about an hour ago, and we had decided with my publisher, we decided on what we wanted. And there's really 2 that are phenomenal entries. So I was really excited about both of them. I was like, I don't care which one we pick, they're both great. So that was really exciting.
I love
Well,
it.
my question is,
Yes.
if the first book took 25 years and the second took 6 months, do you
Right.
think the third one's going to take like 2 weeks?
I mean,
Are you gonna
that's
keep
that's
that
a
same-
possibility?
Right.
Progression?
Eventually, you're going to wind up writing 600 pages in about 10 minutes in about a year from now. Yeah.
I mean, I
Publish,
love
like-
your optimism, fellas, but I don't think that's gonna happen.
Michael, it's just math. Michael K.
Yeah.
I know.
We're just
I know.
extrapolating
Actually,
from data
I was
that we have
able to
available
finish
to
a
us.
third book this summer. It took me about 6 months, so I felt really good. Though it was not part of this series. I wanted to do something new. It's a dwarven steampunk novel, which I absolutely love. One of the characters reminds me of what you were talking about, Ron, with one of your characters. He's very, you know, kind of charismatic, happy-go-lucky dwarven bard, and I can't wait to have that one published. I really hope my publisher wants to go with it, so it should be exciting.
Nice.
I'm happy to read the blurb on the back if you like.
Yes, most definitely.
All right, I'm going to use my best voice, so we'll give it a try here.
Go right into character if you like.
Okay, thank you. Two brothers struggle to find their place in the world. For the elder sibling Kildare, every morning begins with the memory of betrayal. Once governed by the principles of morality, Kildare has become an instrument of blood and steel, with the speed of his sword arm meeting his own brand of justice. Only the strength and resolve of his brothers Zane keeps him from succumbing to the ever-present rage that burns behind his dark eyes. While employed by the mysterious sage, the pair stumble upon Chameleon, a runaway tribeswoman displaying extraordinary psychic powers. Their meeting, however, is no chance encounter. A riddle she carries will change not only the future of the three, but the fate of the entire world.
Beautiful.
Nice.
We love it.
I mean, I expect you all to buy a copy and give a review in the next week. You know, I know you have nothing else going on.
If you can guarantee you'll have the next book in 2 weeks, we all agree.
Actually, it's coming out in January, so
the race is on.
I can't quite meet the 2-week deadline.
Then you better get over here and get to writing.
I do have a fun short story coming out from my publisher, which is at Three Ravens Publishing. It's called From the Trailer Park. It's kind of the 80s, you know, kind of throwback urban fantasy. And I have a short story in there called Hell Hath No Fury. And it's absolutely something I never thought I would write, but it was a really fun thing to write. I actually read through it last night. I started laughing. I was like, I forgot I put that in there. That was really fun. So
That is awesome. I love it. So, gentlemen, I'm going to ask you a series of questions. And please, feel free to jump in if you have any questions for another author, okay? Or for me. That's up to you. It's not a no-no, except for Ron. You're not allowed nothing.
there, Ron's getting picked on already. We haven't barely even started.
Ron is my sparring partner.
That's what happens when you come on more than once.
Yes.
Just saying,
yes.
just a warning.
I'm signing up for that.
You best get ready. So, the questions begin. How often do you find yourself writing? Every day, every week, or multiple times throughout the day? And yes, I was asked this, and just so you know, I always have many emails to answer per week after this show. So we're going to start with you, and I am going to call you Michael K because I got lucky the first, real close to lucky the first time. I'm not pushing my feet.
I'm the new guy.
I don't blame you.
All right, I'm going to do my best. Yeah, so of course this is a great question. I find myself writing most days, certainly more than once a week. I try to write every day, but usually it's 5 times a week. I would say between 4 and 5. Some days I'll get 7 or 8 days in a row. I'm lucky because I have a publishing company and they do what's called writing sprints. So we can log on whenever we want. There's usually somebody in there and they try to schedule times. But yeah, I try to write. My goal is always to try to write 500 words a day. If I can do that, great. If I get over 1,000, even better. 2,000, dude, I'm rolling. But that's the way I do it. I like to try to write every day.
Now, what was the most challenging for you in writing this?
In this book, yeah, there were so many different challenges when it came to the Raven and the Crow. I think knowing the characters' backstories and how they're going to affect what they're doing now, coming up with that, I actually did so much backstory work. When I finish this, and this will be a 6-book series, I may jump into doing 2 or 3 prequels that go along with it, just because those backstories are so intricate and so well thought out. Another big issue I had was, the map. I'm sure these gentlemen can attest to. If you're going to have characters moving around, What's the terrain? How long is it going to take? How fast can they move? Are they on foot? Are they on ship? And of course, doing all that research, how fast could ships move in the Middle Ages? What was the fastest thing? You know, where were the, you know, riding the tides? How were the winds on the Mediterranean Sea? These were all things that had to be thoroughly researched because you want it to be as accurate as possible. Of course,
verisimilitude.
But I have a feeling most writers feel that way. Yeah.
Definitely.
So there was a lot of challenges. I mean, that's just the ones that I could think of that were tough, but there was a lot of challenges with it. You know, just coming up with the world in general. You know, I made this fun game. I was doing a little gambling scene, and I was down in Mexico. I was on vacation. And I was like, you know, I really need to do something better. So I invented this little gambling game, and I sat there and I'm playing it by the pool. And my, you know, people are like, how come you're not going to the pool? Like, I'm busy. Leave me alone. You know, I'll take another margarita. I'll keep that coming. So that was, you know, all that stuff adds to the world. It makes it more believable, and that's what I enjoy. But it is difficult to do.
So, what time frame does your book actually take place in? So
this is of course, this is a whole new place, a new world, a new map, new everything. But I try to make it where there's part of it similar to what the height of the Greek Empire, though I do have some medieval things in there as well. Steel, for example, is around. It's rare, but you know, people that have money can handle it. Most things are made out of iron. You will see some Bronze Age things as well. But there's that nice vast kind of landscape of time frame there. But I would say mostly it's a Middle Ages kind of feel to it.
Now, you mentioned 6-book series. Do you see any challenges forthcoming?
Well, starting the 3rd book has been challenging. I do. Yeah, you know, and of course I have a lot of it mapped out, but the challenges to come, for example, one of the things, I know there's going to be some really large battles coming up. And when I was writing my newest novel, which was my dwarf novel, I did have a large battle scene, and I was going from several, you know, 15 or 20 different characters, and I was looking at the battle from 3 different perspectives. And each character that was in each, I mean, I had to sit there and say, I've got to choreograph this whole fight. And I know that there's going to be bigger battles coming when it comes to the Raven and the Crow series. So to me, just on some of those final battle scenes, I really need to make sure it flows nicely. Everything happens that's supposed to happen. You know, I love action. I know there's several authors out there that they'll spend, you know, chapters and chapters on a single battle. I'm not really one of them. I think battles should take place in a couple pages, but if it's a big war like that, yeah, it's gonna be much bigger. So just getting all the perspectives and knowing everything that's happening, I know that's gonna be a challenge. So, and of course, when your characters die, it's so brutally tough. I actually get emotional. I don't know what these guys do. These guys probably tough as nails, but I'm like, I don't really want to kill this character. But I sit there, I'm like, hey, I mean, I need to do it because number one, it's probably going to happen anyway. It has to be realistic. And secondly, it helps the growth of other characters in certain ways. So to me, you know, there's a lot of challenges coming up. But I'm excited for them. I can't wait to deal with them all.
That's awesome.
I'm excited
Ron.
for you. That's good.
Thanks, man.
Ron, how hard is it
Yes.
for you to kill someone off, dear?
Not hard at all. I don't even like real people. So killing off pretend people is nothing. The
This is
only
why we
time,
have this rapport here.
yeah. I mean, it's just I'm not a hippie like Michael K. No, there was one time in one of the books, some children are murdered, and that was rough. You know, the main character Dirk, he sees them killed in front of him. He saves, or I guess one is killed. He saves the other two, and that was hard. And I went downstairs. At the time, my office was upstairs. I came down and I told my wife, you know, I'm really affected by this. And she was like, well, why'd you have him die? Why couldn't you have written something else? And I said, shut up, woman. And no, I said,
She's giving you drinks, man.
I know, she's actually awesome. Actually, what I really said was, nothing I can do, man. That's the story. That's what happened. You know, I'm just reporting it. But it was rough. I had to stop after that scene. But when major characters and things, people that have been in the book, maybe more than one book, and then they die, I've had it planned for so long that you know, I guess I only am against killing children. Anybody else, it's fine.
How did you decide which one lives and which one dies?
Well, I knew Dirk wasn't going to die since he's a narrator. And it is a long series. There's a lot of plans for different books. So if you had something planned for your future, then you got to live. and if I didn't have something planned for their future, then they tended to die, because I read Lord of the Rings at junior high. And even then, as a child, I was like, wait a minute. 9 people go to fight the most powerful force on the earth, or on Middle Earth, and 4 of them are hobbits. And the only one that dies is the traitor. You know, I mean, what a bunch of crap. There's no way. And so I started writing my first draft of Children of Cthulhu over 25 years ago. And at the time, it was not common. We didn't have Game of Thrones. It wasn't common for people to die. And I'm like, tons of people are going to die in my book. And it happens sometimes abruptly, like a character will be introduced and you get some of his backstory. You just feel like you get to know him, and then boom, they're killed. Because I want the bad guys to be menacing. I mean, you know, they are better fighters. They are more deadly. It's going to be a miracle if we live through it. And a lot of them don't. So
I like what you said earlier, that it already happened. I'm just reporting it. You have a plan for these characters and what's going to happen. And you're not going to compromise yourself in that moment, because you start having feelings for that character. You start getting attached to them. You understand that there's a plan in place for that character. They have to die in order for other characters that are still around to be impacted by their death, so that they can appreciate the parts where they were alive. You know, I think that
definitely.
I don't think Boromir would be anywhere near as important a character going forward in The Lord of the Rings if he hadn't died. If he had a redemption arc, by the time you get to the last page of the last book in the series, I don't think you'd look back on Boromir and have any memory of him whatsoever. The fact that he died made him more important, because he's the one who died.
I will say I try and fight feelings in every regard. Just
dead is
not just
die.
in this case. That is my goal.
Well, I'm there. Now, Michael Scott,
Mhm.
when you're building structure in your books, where does the structure end? Where do you say, okay, enough with the structure, on to something else? Your structure
That implies
point
that
A
there's
to point B.
structure at the beginning of the process, and that's not really how it works. Structure kind of, the way you build a house is you get a really nice solid foundation, and then you put and my book and my writing is not built like a house would be built, so it would not survive any kind of a test when it comes to structural integrity, if you were to look at it in that regard. It starts with what it is that I'm trying to convince somebody to feel in a moment that's reading the book, that's reading a character. How do I want somebody to react to the villain? And if I want them to react to the villain in a certain way, I want them to understand where this villain is coming from. So I need to have at least some of this book from the villain's perspective. Later on, when I start figuring out where I start piecing those chapters in that are told from the villain's point of view, that's when I start working on structure. So I might write chapters out of sequence. I might write pretty detailed dreams that a character has that may have an impact on things later in the book, and then I have to scramble around because my life in general is chaos, so why wouldn't my process be? Find, I wrote a dream and I'm referencing that dream and I never actually figured out where I'm going to place it in the book, and then it turns into something bigger later because I'm able to create threads from earlier in the book to later in the book after the fact, because I'm not so stuck on a structure. So I guess I'm a pantser in that regard, that I'm more willing to just get in there and start writing than worry about where I am in the structure, and then I'll worry about placing things where they need to be later.
Very nice. I like that. Now, Michael K.,
Okay.
how important are secondary characters?
Oh, I love secondary characters. I think they're very important. A lot of ways they really make the character. I love that we have these secondary characters, especially when they have such great personality. We don't have to focus on their main storyline, but the effect that they have on the main characters. For example, I just read through this in my first book. There's a scene. The reason I read through it is because I actually have it on audiobook, and it's starting to come in. And as I listened to one of the chapters, I was like, man, I really like that I had done a certain thing. One of my main characters meets this little tiny infant girl, and she has this interaction with him, and it's really not a big deal. And all of a sudden, she says something, and he realizes she sees something that he doesn't see, and he's like, oh, and everything changes for that moment. Everything hinges on this little urchin girl who's about 5 years old on the street. And if she doesn't say or do what she is about to say or do, everything in the book changes. So I love those secondary characters. I find them extremely important. And when we talk about, killing characters off, sometimes I have more trouble killing off the secondary characters than the primary ones because I like them so much. But, for whatever reason, they don't have to be necessarily heroic. I have a really great secondary character. He's such a coward. I love him. He's such a fun character to write because I think, well, what would he do? Oh, yeah, he's not going to do that. He's not going to volunteer for anything. So I love those secondary characters. For me,
I love it. Now, Ron, can those secondary characters become a primary character? And how would you kind of weed them in there? Would you sneak them in, or would you kind of like weave them in?
Well, especially over the trilogy with Dirk as the narrator, even the major characters from the first book who survive kind of fade in and out as he's doing what he's got to do in the second and third book. But I do envision a lot of books in the series, and Dirk is not going to be the narrator for all of them. Some of them are going to take place in the past. And I've already written multiple short stories about minor characters, developing them, that I want to use as reader magnets from a newsletter, or I'm doing an anthology in the Cathaldi world, so it's going to have some stories in there. So I totally plan on some books where secondary characters throughout the trilogy are the main character or a main character in future books, for sure.
I like it. Now, Michael Scott, how long does it take you to kill off a character? Or is it something you think that they should kind of finish off the book? Do you think a character should die at the end? Or how quickly should they die? First, second, third act, all the way through?
At first I thought you were asking how long, like, should I draw out their death? Like, do they deserve like their death to take several pages? There's
4 chapters.
Yeah. There's
an exact answer to this. You better get it right.
It really does depend on the character and the weight their death is supposed to have. One character, there are 2 characters in particular who die pretty much in very close order. Really relatively close to one another. One of them was a shock death, and it was like out of nowhere, and it needed to happen just so you could realize, oh, the threats they face are so real that even they were caught off guard, and now they realize they're not all coming home from this anymore. And then another one, that death kind of got prolonged because they were a fighter and they weren't the kind of character that goes out without, finishing the business they have to finish. So they were able to like kind of tough it out and stick around and say what they needed to say before they went. But to the point of when it's appropriate, or when I feel like I should start killing characters, it really depends. The looming threat of death needs to be established early. So I start killing characters quickly. characters die in the first chapter, like, and they keep dying all the way through. And that's not to say that I'm like, I don't take a thrill out of killing the characters, but I do recognize that if you don't see evidence of mortality, you don't appreciate it. So I think that as a reader, I don't like it when authors are seemingly unnecessarily cruel, but I also don't like it when writers, find convenient ways to stave off death for characters just because they don't want to take that risk. I think that I don't think that it's a controversial thing anymore to start killing characters in your book. I think it's actually that stigma, I think, has been gone for decades. So
I like it. I definitely like it. Now, Ron, do you believe they still use, or should authors have, an epilogue in a book? And these are genuine questions I am asked, so I am asking you guys.
It depends. If it's a series, and they lead one right into the other, which for a lot of fantasy and science fiction novels, that's how it is, then I don't care. But if it's a standalone or the end of the series, I mean, I love it as much as I love it in a Marvel movie. Or the end of Animal House, where you get so yes, I like it, but
The end of Animal House.
yeah, the end of Animal House.
Right? It needed to be there.
Now, Michael K.,
Yes.
what character has the hardest and most important role in your books? Do you find it's your villain? Or do you believe it should be your hero, if you have one, if a book has one?
Yeah, that's again, it's a great question. I don't know which one is the most important, or which one is the best, or which one has the hardest time. I really want I read somewhere, and I'm sure these guys can attest to it. When you have a good villain, you're happy when they're dead. You're like, yeah, woo! When you have a great villain, you're actually upset. You're like, oh man, he's so, she was such a great villain. So to me, I do feel like the villains have to be believable and not omnipotent, but they have to be tough. They're not going to make, I'm going to send one little guy, I'm going to send another little guy, let me send my medium guys. No, they have to do things that they think are going to be smart. And I like to put myself in their shoes. Well, what would I do if I was, scheming and plotting like this? They don't necessarily have to be, pure evil. David Gemmell is my favorite author. I know that he used to make his villains where, they did have some redeeming qualities, and there was always a reason that they acted the way they did. They didn't just wake up and say, "I'm going to be bad today." They had a reason why they acted the way they did. So to me, the villains are critically important. Having said that, I'm going to say my heroes have to be even more important. They really are. To me, they're shades of gray. They're not, white knights. I mean, I read my story about Kildare and Zidane. These guys are shades of gray all the way. In a lot of ways, they're anti-heroes. How did they get to how they are? Why are they acting this way? To me, a lot of my heroes are like that. I really like that anti-hero thing. And those that are portrayed as such, great people, or, whether it's a hero or a female hero, heroine, they're not always so great. You got to peel those layers off. Like, Shrek says to Donkey, everyone's got layers. Well, so yeah, to me, I don't know that I could say one is more important than the other. I will say the heroes, but it's a fraction, maybe more important. My villains are critically important to me as well.
I like it. Michael Scott, can every book, you believe, become a movie?
No, and a lot of books that became movies, that should never have happened.
You didn't say a good movie.
Yeah, that's true, but that's true. And
now, how do you differentiate?
As a avid fan of Mystery Science Theater and riff tracks, I'll tell you that it's actually great that terrible movies happen. But how do I differentiate? Well, I think that if you were to write a book just because you want it to become a movie, there's like this a little bit of a cynical, that's a bit cynical to me. You're not writing a book to be a book. You're not writing a book to tell a good story. You're writing a book because you see dollar signs at the end of a Hollywood deal. That's the kind of thing that I think should never be allowed to make it as a movie. I think that a good movie version of a novel is based on a novel that stands on its own and people can appreciate it in its original medium first. So would I like to see Free Wilds, become something that, people can see on a TV or play the video game, or if there's like other aspects, other kinds of media that it could turn into? Absolutely. But what I really want people to do is look at the book in and of itself and look forward to the next book. I think that if your goal is to do that first and hope that other nice things come later, that's a better way to look at it. As far as what it takes for a book to be movie worthy, I think that I think you have to take a look at some of the times that they've made movies of books and it hasn't worked because the book was just too big in scope and scale. Dune is being, they've made another version of Dune, and it's one of those books that is hard. It has to be very difficult to film it because it is so difficult to digest even as a book. It is monstrous in scope and scale, and it tells 30,000 some odd years of history over the course of the novel, and yet there's a sense of beautiful incompletion to the novel. Like, even when you get to the end of it, you feel like there's so much more and I don't have it yet, and it's not in front of me. You're not necessarily going to be able to translate those feelings to the screen. So still, I'll watch it.
I definitely like it. Good answer. Now, Ron, when do you know a book's finished? How do you know when to cut the book off and say, you know what? This is it.
Well, I already know how they're going to end before I start writing. So I mean, I'm a hybrid between a plotter and a pantser, but I had an outline, and there's a lot of stuff developed there, and I remember Stephen King will talk about how he tells the story to himself over and over and over. So by the time he writes it down, it goes quick because he's written it 100 times or 1,000 times in his head already. And I don't do that, but I do part of that. And so I'm writing to the end. So, I mean, I know when I'm getting close, and I know right when I'm done. I mean, I have a plan. It's not a surprise, except for You're As Stupid As You Are Fat, How to Talk to Women. That book did not have an outline or much of a plan. It was written to win an argument. So, well, I had gotten divorced.
Well, you knew I was going to ask, so you might as well go ahead, unfold.
Give me one. I hope she is. Oh, thanks. Lazy waitress. Thanks. She just brought me the bottle this time. So my first wife left, and I started dating, and eventually I was dating this woman, and she said that I do not know how to talk to women. And I said, that's ridiculous. I'm like a genius at talking to women. I might have been drunk. I don't know. But I said, I'm a genius at talking to women. I have a great relationship with my ex-wife. I have a great relationship with my mom, my 2 daughters. I'm awesome. And so I thought, she did not concede. So I thought the best way to win the argument would be to have written a book about how to talk to women. Because between any 2 people who are arguing about something, if one of them has written a book on the topic, I feel they should win. And so I wrote it out of spite. And basically, I just stopped when I was sick of it, because it turned out so different from what I was imagining. As I started writing it, the guy who was writing it, or the narrator now, I mean, he was misogynistic and he was awful. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't even put my name on it. So it's written by somebody else. I mean, and yeah, after a while I was like, I just can't do it anymore. And I mean, I think it's funny, but it's awful. I mean, there's just some awful things in it. One of the last lines is he's talking, Zach is the character that wrote, and Zach's like, if I'm already working on a sequel called I'm Glad You Lost the Baby because I think you'd make an awful mother. And I'm like, that is like the worst thing to say. And the book is full of that shit. Yeah, it's awful. It's awful. I mean, it cracks me up, but it's awful. And so yeah, I was just done when I could only be so awful. So even I can only be so awful.
Now, does your wife read your manuscripts?
Yes. She
And
doesn't
I'm
care for it.
assuming she gives feedback, correct?
Not really.
No?
She's afraid I will be mad at her if she tells me she doesn't like something.
I need
And
her.
I'm like, I don't care what you think. But one day she was reading a novel, or she finished reading a novel, and I said, well, how was it? And she goes, ugh, even your book was better than that. That was when all I had out was Children of Cthulhu. She was like, even your book was better than that. I said, high praise. And she goes, no, I mean it. But she didn't put it very well. She meant it. She's like, this lady's got 13 books, and she's like, your book is better than this. You for the first time, I think she thought maybe you could be successful. And she did not love You're Stupid as You Are Fat, How to Talk to Women, which makes sense. Although I have had some feedback from women I did not know who read it, thought it was funny, and were not offended, and don't want to kill me or anything, which is nice. But although I am kind of looking forward to, emails and reviews that are just vicious. I don't know why. I think that'd be fun, but so far I haven't gotten it. It's only been a week.
I see you turning those reviews, somehow twisting it into another book. I see it. I see it. Now, Michael K.
Yes.
How long does it take for you to bring in a new character?
Oh yeah, that's I mean, it just depends. Sometimes I need a character right away. I just bring him in. Other times I have to think about, what do I want to do here? How do I want to say it? So for me, it's really on a need basis, and I don't think I'm great at it yet. When I was working on the sequel to this one, I sat there. I said, I really need an intermediary character. I need somebody to help out another one of my secondary characters. And I thought about the show I used to like. I was like, I really like that one character. I'm going to base it on that character. Just quickly wrote it in. And as I wrote, I was like, man, this guy's really fun to write. And so he's now becoming, he was only supposed to be in there for like a quarter of a chapter. I've got him in there for 3 or 4 chapters now. And now he knows the main characters. So I'm going to do quite a bit. In fact, I think I'm going to put him in the 3rd book. I want him to be traveling because he was such a fun character. So for me, sometimes I give it a lot of thought and I know exactly who's going to go in. And other times I'm like, I'm going to pluck it out of the sky, put it in there, and let's see what happens. All right, good. That's what happened with so many of my different characters. I can't believe how much I enjoy writing them. And the reason I think why is because I can do whatever I want with these guys. I can kill them off. One of my favorite characters, I just wrote about him. It was a dwarf. I gave him a name. He was being healed. The other guy, the healer said, all right, now be careful. He stood up, he got hit, and he was killed. I was just like that. I didn't remember his name. I wanted to kill him off. I did it because I was like, I want the reader to see how tough a situation they are in, just like Michael Scott had said. I no malice towards him, but I was like, I need somebody to kill off. All right, here we go, boom, 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 done. So, again, I like to write I don't know if you ever saw that movie Finding Forrester. I always love it. Sean Connery does a great portrayal. He talks about,
You're the man now, dog.
I wrote it for me. And I love that he says that. I'm like, that's true. I mean, when I wrote The Raven and the Crow, I wrote it for me. I wanted to write a book that I would like, that I think would make me happy if I read it. And at the end of it, I having read it so many times, I'm actually sick of it. I'm awesome. But, listening to the audiobook again, I'm like, oh man, I really enjoyed it. I was really quite proud of it, and it was a lot of fun. So that's what I thought. And as far as answering your question, yeah, characters, I can give them a lot of thought. What do I really need here? And sometimes I just pop them in and pop them back out, depending on what the story needs at that time. But I always try to make them fun and memorable, or maybe not fun, but just memorable in a good way or a bad way.
I like that. Ron, how about you?
What was the question?
Do you just
I'm sorry. I got
Ron's busy. He's
when
busy
Michael
sipping his
talks. Well,
margarita.
yeah, I was busy drinking, but when Michael talks, I just get drowsy. He's just so unrelentingly positive.
Ooh,
Yeah, happy,
Me?
giggly. It just makes me sick.
I'm sorry,
No,
man.
It's really
No offense to the
unseemly how happy you are. It's you gotta tone it down. Be miserable.
I've
It's
been
the
drinking
tap
and I'm
water.
not as
The
happy as
tap
you.
water's getting me there.
Oh,
There's
Ron,
something in the water.
Ron, behind you, you have someone joining you. Your cat just jumped behind you.
Yeah, one of my
Look at
cats
that.
loves being there.
Oh, get out.
His name's Jasper. He's very nice.
Podcast
Of the-
crashing.
4 cats here. He's the one I like.
Now, gentlemen,
Wait, I didn't get to answer the question. I didn't
yes,
remember what it
answer
was.
your question.
Something about characters. Yes, I like characters. Now, what was the question?
Okay.
It was like, how quickly do you introduce characters?
Yes.
Oh, a lot. Often, very quickly. I mean, mine's epic fantasy. There's a lot of shit going on, and so people are coming and going. I mean, I don't have as much fun as Mr. Falciani. Falciani, is that right?
Ooh,
Nobody
Mr.
has that kind of
Falciani
fun.
has. But yeah, I enjoy it, but not like I'm on crack or whatever's going on with him. Hey, cat, come on now. There's wine here. Let's not fool around with wine. Ooh. But sorry.
I'm waiting for Michael Scott to sit up. He just starts cracking up.
characters are plot fodder, right? I mean, you introduce characters in order to throw them in front of the plot because that's what you need at the moment. They exist to. I mean, it stinks, but what we're essentially doing is we're playing the way all children play with little army men or GI Joes or whatever, Barbies, whatever it is that you played with as a kid. You grab the next toy because suddenly somebody needs to be driving the car, or suddenly somebody needs to be hit by the car. Something has to happen with a car and a character has to be involved in that. And so suddenly there needs to be a character there. Is it somebody that doesn't get a name, or is it suddenly important to you in that moment? This person needs a whole story, and then I need to kill them immediately, and none of it needs to matter just because I need to reinforce again, this is a person that had a life and you didn't even know anything about them. Now you do, and too bad because he's gone. So yeah, sometimes you have to introduce characters in a hurry and then take them away. Or sometimes you, like, the other Michael was saying, you have to introduce characters and you're considering taking them away, but then you like writing them so much that they end up kind of appearing again and again. Like, well, there's people mulling around in the background and this guy lives in this town, so there's no reason why he couldn't have overheard this conversation and chime in. And suddenly, if the reader's anything like me, they'll be like, oh, hey, it's that guy again, So every movie needs a that guy, and every book needs a that guy.
I like it. Beautiful. Now, gentlemen, I'm going to go down the line and I want you to offer advice to up and coming new authors. Let's hear it. Michael, Scott.
Me?
Yes.
I'm a brand new baby author. How can I give advice?
You have insight. You have done this. Now, when someone sits down and they are new and they are, okay, I have this thought in process and I know where I want to go with it, what's the first piece of advice you would give them?
Start writing immediately. Don't wait. Earlier there was a question that was asked, how often do you write? and whether it was every day, multiple times a day, whenever you have the opportunity to write and a moment of time to write, and the mood strikes you to do it, right, and don't stop until you run out of energy to do so, or you run out of time to do so. There's no such thing as wasted. Oh, that's probably the best piece of advice that I can give, is that there's no such thing as a waste of time when it comes to writing. If you write a bunch of stuff and you're like, this is awful, I can't use any of this, don't throw it away. Make a folder if you're typing, because most people are using computers to write nowadays. I know some people are old school and they do it with pen and paper or what have you, but if you're writing on a computer, it's text on a screen doesn't take up much space on a computer. So there's no such thing as, you're not wasting anything. Keep a little folder of just stuff that you're not going to use now, but you might later on think, remember, I wrote something, I didn't think I could use it, but now I wish I'd kept it because I had something in there I might have been able to use. There's no such thing as wasted time when it comes to writing. It's all practice. Even if you're not going to use it in your book, you got it out of your system, you flushed it out, it's there on the page, and some of that might be worthwhile later. So hold on to everything.
I love it. Very nice. Ron.
All right, my advice would be finish your frickin' draft. And that means, or there's really two parts of it the way I think about it. One is, don't write a chapter and then keep rewriting it, trying to make it perfect. Get the frickin' story out. And the other is, when your evil brain tries to distract you with ideas for other projects, don't hop from one project to another. Just open up a document, type a couple paragraphs or pages, whatever you need to get the idea out of your head, and then get back to work on what you were doing. It's just, our brains have so many awful tricks to play to distract us from completing things when the going gets a little tough, and you just have to power through. And I mean, if you want to ever have anything done. So there's my advice.
I definitely concur. I like that piece of advice.
Great advice.
Michael K.
Well, I mean, first of all, I just want to be a little sadder and less happy because I don't want
Oh, thank God.
on the Zoom screen.
Finally. Oh,
You're bringing me
it's
down,
like you're
Michael.
a human being now.
Yeah, my advice is, I don't know if people will follow this or not. I'm like Michael Scott. I think I'm even newer than you are, buddy. I write what you love, write what you enjoy, write what you care about. To me, that's what I do. I try to write things that I like, that I enjoy, that I care about, and don't worry about whether you know everything about it. You can always research whatever you want to, but write what you enjoy doing. That's what I've done, and I don't know how successful I'm going to be. I don't know how successful I am, but I feel like, to me, that's the key. You have to like what you're doing, and if you don't, then you're probably doing something wrong. I love to write. I love the outlet, and I enjoy what I write.
And gentlemen, props to living the dream of being able to be a writer and getting it done and writing it. And success aside, that is the success. Monetary gain's awesome, but the success that you have inside, that yes, I did this, is amazing. And that's what I believe. Now,
Thank you.
That tail came up. I'm not laughing.
I saw that. I did not
like pepping the pews in there with him.
He's been in my lap for a long time. He's a little needy, which I like, so it's fine.
Now, I'm going to go through. Gentlemen, how can we reach you? We're going to start with you, Michael. Scott?
Me?
Subtle.
Every time, me?
Probably the best way to reach me is my Facebook page. I do have a website, but it's unreliable. So my Facebook page, it's facebook.com/thefreewilds, FREEWILDS. You can reach me there. You can send me messages. You can send me hate mail. That all works. And my book is available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and I don't know, Google my book, and you'll find it somewhere.
I love it. Ron?
The best thing is to go to my website, kathaldi.com, KATHALDI.com, and that's got all my other shit there, you know, Twitter and Facebook and email and the website for the which is howtotalktowomen.com, but with numerals for the 2 2s. And then, you know, links to my newsletter and free audiobooks and free stories and all sorts of stuff. So please go to my website. It looks like crap because I have other things to spend my time on, but there's a lot of stuff there.
Love it. Michael K.
Go to my website. It looks like crap.
Maybe you're not used to honesty.
Oh,
Michael
man.
K.
Is it
I know.
all
With
spelled
your
out? It looks like
land of-
crap.com.
Land of
KRAP.
unicorns and
Sells
rainbows.
it. He definitely sells it for us.
I mean, I'm gonna go there and I want to see it now. Yeah, you can. Your best place to find me is Michael K. Falciani is on Facebook. I am on Twitter as well. I'm on Instagram. I really don't put that much. I did have a website. I mean, I have to envy Ron's because I couldn't do it. I was like, I'm taking this down. I am looking at getting another website though, but I'm gonna have somebody else do it because I don't understand. They said it was gonna be easy. It was not easy. But yeah, Facebook is the best place to get a hold of me. MichaelKFalciani.com, and all my stuff is there. I post. You can also take a look at Three Ravens Publishing. A lot of my information is there as well, which is
All right. Awesome. Gentlemen, I've had an awesome time. Ron, thank you so much for coming and joining me.
My pleasure, as always.
Cheers. I am
Cheers to
cheering
industry.
with nothing in my hands. You notice this? Next time I shall be prepared with this. Gentlemen, thank you, truly. And everyone, I am Opus Night, and you have just experienced Night Vision. Have a beautiful night, guys.
Good night.
Bye-bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye-bye.